In the previous lesson, we looked at how to code all the buttons and controls for using the study cards to study a topic. In this lesson, we're going to look at how to create a new study card file, data file, or to edit an existing one. Previously, you saw the panel. My panel's down here at the bottom, it's kind of positioned out of the way. I'm going to grab the little move handle and position it so it covers everything else. That's sort of the goal, is when we click that create edit button, this becomes visible and hides all the other controls. Almost looks like we've gone on to a new page or a new screen of some sort. The panel is named PNL Edit, and then I have a label called LBL Current File, a text box called TXT Topic, another one TXT Author, TXTA, and TXTB, and those are going to contain the names of our side A and side B. And then I have a large list here called LST Dictionary, buttons, BTN Load Editor, BTN Create New, BTN Add New Entry, BTN Alphabetize Keys, and BTN Save. Once you've created that, I'm going to suggest you drag your panel and again position it out of the way down towards the bottom where you can still reach the drag handle for it. And let's take a look again at the code for the create edit button. That was our BTN edit button. I'm going to double click on that. And in the previous video, I had you add the PNL edit location and PNL edit dot visible. And again, that location just sets that location of the panel to the upper left-hand corner with a little bit of spacing, and then makes the visibility true. We want to make sure we set the visibility or the visible property of PNL edit to false in our property editor. Then we're going to add some code to populate the LBL current file label and our 4 text boxes based on the values of our current data file. So assuming we've opened a data file and now we want to edit it, we click that BTN edit button, we're going to assume we want to start by editing that file. Now we can choose at that point to not edit that file and just create a new one. We have a dictionary called New Dictionary. We're going to clear that, and then we're going to set a for each where we're going to take all the items in our master dictionary and add those to that new dictionary, and also add them to our list box, LST dictionary. Then just a little point of code keeping here, a little point of ordering our code. I put all the code that goes with our editor panel all together, and I get a little header here that says Study Cards Editor. So now I'm going to bring this back into play. And let's look at the Load Another File button. This is our BTN Load Editor. So here's the code for our BTN Load Editor underscore click procedure. We're going to bring up a message box that's warning the user that if they load another file, it's going to erase the current entries here. So we want to confirm they want to do that. And if that result, if dr is equal to dialog result.yes, because which button they click on goes into dr as a dialog result. So if they click yes, then we're going to open up the open flashcard file, open file dialog, and show that dialog. We're going to set another data file variable as a string to whatever that file name is. And just as before, when we open our file from the gameplay area, we're going to set a string of pairs that's going to contain 2 items, since everything is every line is a pair of items. We will set LBL current file.text to the name of that file name. And then we're going to set up our delimiter as a tab. And just as we did before when we were loading a file, we're going to check to see if the extension of that file name we chose has a .csv extension. And if it is, we'll set the delimiter to a comma. So we do that with that if structure. Then we'll set lblcard.text to please wait retrieving data. Actually, we don't really need that because you're not going to see that anymore. So I'm just going to comment that line out. As you see, I kind of copied and pasted from our previous program with a few changes. Try. We'll create our stream reader. We'll open up that data file. We're going to read the first line as pairs, and that's going to be our topic and author. And we're going to populate those two text boxes. We're going to read in the next line, which is going to be our side A and side B. And we're going to populate those two text boxes. We're going to clear our dictionary. We're going to clear our list. And then we're going to read every remaining line of that data file until we reach the end. So while sr.peak does not equal -1, we're going to read in each line at a time and split it by the delimiter, add it to pairs. So these will both be two strings. And then if we're going to trim the first item, pairs sub 0, and if after we trim it, if it's equal to a null to quote, then we will not add items to our list into our dictionary. So we have a not equals quote. Assuming that it's not empty, we're going to add our pairs to the new dictionary, and then we'll add our pairs to the LST dictionary. And here I'm going to pad it right. The first one, pair 0, I'm going to pad it right 30 characters, do a tab, and then add pairs 1. When that's all done, and we've read all of our data, we're going to close our stream reader object. And then I have a catch in case something goes wrong. We'll bring up the message. Something went wrong, and show the message of the exception. Let's take a look at create a new file. So in the create a new file, we're going to kind of do the same thing. Have our dialog box that we did up above. Just warning that we're going to erase any entries that are there. So we have them confirm, and if they confirm, we're going to set last saved equals to false. Now last saved was a class level variable that I created at the very top of my program. We're going to clear out LBL current file.text. Actually, we're going to add new file.txt in there, just as a visual clue that we're working on a new file. I'm going to clear out the 4 text boxes so that the user can enter items into those 4. Clear our dictionary. We're going to set the topic. We're going to set the focus to txt topic, and then bring up a message box suggesting they add values into those 4 text boxes. It's not saving the file. All we're doing is basically setting that up. We're going to add a new value. So here we're going to add pairs, and we have new key equals null, new value equals null, and then I have a new entry form called NEF equals new entry form. And what I did was over on the Solution Explorer was I added a new form that I called new entry form. And of course I did that by going to my solution, going to add, adding a new item, and choosing a new Windows form. So let's take a look at that form. I'm going to open it up. So in the visual editor, I gave it a title of add a new pair. It's got a label and a text box. And that text box is named txt new. Another label. And the second text box is txt new b. I'm sorry, this one was txt new a, txt new b, and then a button called btn add pair. Let's look at the code for that button while we're here. So in the new entry form code, we have our class statement. I have 2 new variables here
called myNewKey and myNewValue. Both of these are class level public string. Visual Studio will put our initialize component method for our constructor. And then for our btn add pair underscore click event, we're going to set myNewKey to txtNewA.text and myNewValue to txtB.text. And then I close the form. So now let's go back to our other form. Go back to our add new key value. So what we're doing here then is we're creating a new instance of that form. We're showing it as show dialog, nef.show dialog. And if nef dialog result is equal to dialog result.OK, and I need to explain that piece of code. I'm going to go back to my design form. For my add pair button, I set a property of dialog result to OK. So we have those same buttons that we had before in the message box. I can set a button on a form to replicate the values of those message box buttons. So this basically becomes, or can be treated as a message box. So if they clicked that button, we're going to set new key equal to nef.myNewKey, new value equal to nef.myNewValue. We'll create a new dictionary where we're adding in new key and new value. Now I could have simply used nef.myNewKey and nef.myNewValue here, as well as in the next line where we're going to add them to the dictionary using .newKey. We're going to pad that to right of 30 spaces. Add a tab character and our new value, and we're going to set the last saved equals to false, and that simply is where we're adding in a new pair. We want to warn the user if they try to exit the screen that they have unsaved data. So it's just a Boolean flag, last saved equals false. Now I set the sorted property of my dictionary to true, so it's always going to be listed alphabetically in the list box, but they're not listed or not ordered alphabetically in my dictionary. And that's what the alphabetized keys button does. So I created a new list called alpha keys, created a new dictionary called tempDict. That was a dictionary of string and string. And then for each value in new dictionary, I added the key to alpha keys, and I sort alpha keys. And then for each string ZYX in alpha keys, I'm going to go through that list. I'm going to create a dictionary item in tempDict of ZYX, that's the alpha key, and its corresponding value from new dictionary. I'm going to clear the list box. I'm going to clear new dictionary, and now I'm going to rewrite tempDict back to new dictionary. So for each XYZ in tempDict, we're going to add that value, both the key and the value, to our new dictionary, and then show those values in our LST list box, LST dictionary list box, and set the last saved equals to false. And then the final button is our save button. And our save button brings up the SFD Save Study Cards dialog. We're going to set the file name of that dialog to our LBL current file.txt. We'll show the dialog. So the default is going to be to rewrite the existing file that's been opened. But maybe we don't do that. Maybe we want to save a new copy of it or a new version of it. We have that choice through the show dialog. Once they close that dialog, we're going to change the text of LBL current file to whatever the file name is they chose. They may have chosen the default, they might not. Then we're going to open up a stream writer named SW. And we're going to open up SFD study cards.filename, and here I added a couple more parameters or arguments, and that is we're going to set a false value, and then we're going to tell it how to encode. and we're going to use encoding.utf8. This will allow us to store diacritical characters, such as characters with an accent, or the enye with the tilde. We're going to write the line to that data file of our topic, tab, and author values. Next line, our side a.text, txt.a.text, and txt.b.text with a tab in between. And then a for loop that simply is going to write each line of our dictionary, new dictionary, to our data file. We'll close the data file. Now we're going to set last saved equals to true. Any changes have been saved. And that's our save button code. Now we also have our little hide edit button, which I had you code in the last video, but just to make sure, let's take a look at this code for this button. btn hide edit underscore click. If not last saved, so if last saved is false, it's going to run this code, because not false is going to be true. So we're going to bring up a dialog box warning them that they have unsaved changes, telling them the changes will be lost, and asking, are they sure they want to close this panel now? The title's unsaved data. We're going to use a yes, no, cancel. If the result is yes, they do want to close, then we're going to set the visibility of our panel to false. If everything's been saved, we don't need to bother them with that question. We're just simply going to set the visibility of the panel to false. So go ahead and code all that and test your project. Then zip it and submit it.